Well, ladies and gentlemen, I hope, like me, you've enjoyed a fabulous day here to celebrate Steve and Lisa's wedding. And how lucky we are to be celebrating with a wedding breakfast at the world-famous Rimrock Cafe.
Breakfast?
That's what we call it in England. Wedding breakfast. Strange, isn't it?
More alcohol.
I think you'll agree that Lisa looks terrific. And Steve, well, we knew you had one decent suit left in the cupboard. For those who don't know me then, my name is Dave and I have the important task of making sure you're left with no illusions about our groom tonight. We will leave no stone unturned, no closet unopened, no rug unlifted to get to the truth about the man. To understand Steve, we need to explore the various personas of his 41 years so far. Here's a few we will hourly digest tonight. The early years, Steve the Tiny Tears.
Oh, tiny tears.
Steve the academic. Steve the pilot. Steve the foodie. Steve the sportsman. And finally, and most significant, Steve the lover. Now I should point out that if there are any references which appear to be remarkably familiar to a certain Mr. Edmund Blackadder, then this is purely coincidental. Steve the early years. A much longed for baby to his mum Jean, Steve arrived in this world on the 20th of October 1967 and was frankly so perfect that he was immediately nicknamed Tiny Tears. For those who remember, this was a doll so lifelike it could actually replicate human functions. Steve's been making pretty unpleasant noises ever since. Now at an early age, Steve showed signs of brightness. Now, this may be surprising to those of us who witnessed Steve attempting to retrieve his golf ball from a wasp's nest the other day at Nicholas North. But anyway, armed with his freshly sharpened pencils, wearing his little grey shorts and skull cap, Steve was sent off for his 11+ entrance exams to try for one of the great English schools, Eton, Harrow, Birkenhead. Now he passed with flying colours, and Birkenhead awaited our child protege. I was of course testing you there because the brightest amongst you would have noticed that only 2 of these are great English schools. Eton's a complete dump.
We're not from there.
Steve the academic. Now I need to fast forward you to 1987 when we arrived as fresh-faced, budding Casanovas at Birmingham University. Armed with our taped copies of greats such as Marillion, George Michael, a suitcase full of tight black jeans and wash bags full of fake Armani aftershave. How could the girls of neighbouring Woodrington Hall turn us down? You're right, surprisingly many of them did. However, one of Steve's mottos is always to let a pig-headed unwillingness to see facts and face see him through. And so, unthwarted, he raced through his early student days, refusing to use the R word, relationship, and the C word, commitment. Even betting me, although he's probably forgotten this, that he'd never get married before the year 2010. That's 50 quid you owe me, Steve. Steve was a very studious undergraduate who took many aspects of academic study very seriously indeed, locking himself away for hours with books on thermodynamics, only to unlock the door once another compilation tape of Marillion was ready. The truth is, Steve is too bright a person to waste hours studying the intricacies of applied mechanics. So, a potentially brilliant career in mechanical engineering was abandoned, and with academia over, Steve did what every sensible graduate engineer does. He headed off to the City of London to make his fortune in the world of finance, and employment with that grand firm, Coopers and Lybrand Deloitte. Now my favourite part of this, get ready for lots of fun. Sorry Steve, that's the accountancy bit gone. No, actually there is one aspect of Steve's early accountancy days which I must mention. This was the start of one of Steve's great obsessions, spreadsheets. If you know Steve, you'll know that he has a spreadsheet for everything, for everybody, for every occasion, in fact anything that needs controlling. There is a rumour that Steve's little black book is in fact a spreadsheet. At one point, Lisa, when accidentally rummaging around Steve's laptop, thought she'd found this infamous black book when she saw a folder full of girls' names. Jennifer, Alison, Philippa, Sue, and so on. But she quickly dismissed this as she couldn't think why Steve would date girls with the same surname, .xls. Steve the pilot. Now Steve is a man ahead of his time. After all, he learned to fly before he could legally drive. This grand event he achieved at Speke Airport. And for those of you who don't know your UK aviation, this is Liverpool Airport, or John Lennon International as it's now called, with a catchy strapline, "Above us only skies." Well, the day that Steve did his first solo, there were more than just skies above him. Lots of nasty, thick and low-hanging clouds too. Either the crusty old Scouse instructor had supreme confidence in Steve's ability, or he thought there was a great neat insurance job on that old Cessna 150. So he launched Steve off into the sky, up there where the air is clear, although Steve, the chances of the air being clear near you are probably nil. Steve found himself immediately surrounded in cloud. He negotiated Liverpool Cathedral as it loomed into view in the mist, then had a few scrapes with a couple of misplaced liverbirds, and Steve realised he was worryingly lost. Now, as every pilot knows, it's easy to be a good navigator, as long as you know your arse from your elbow. It's on here, Steve. Luckily, he quickly found the River Mersey and he headed back upstream to Speke Airport for his tea and medals. Now, Steve's flying career then continued with the Royal Air Force. This didn't do much for his airmanship skills, but his drinking abilities were severely tested. Watching Steve drink a yard of ale, topped up with whiskey, brandy, and other unmentionable spirits isn't a pretty sight. 10 minutes later, we got a second sighting. Now, Steve did seriously think about becoming an airline pilot at one stage. However, he was overheard saying he wasn't interested in joining the 20-minuters. And that, for everyone knows, is the average amount of work done daily by an airline pilot. He later told me that he didn't want to hang around any crew rooms drinking pink champagne surrounded by attractive young stewardesses and then only working 20 minutes a day. Steve, hang on a minute. And then, as quick as it started, it was all over. Record number 1. He has a medal awarded jointly with a number of people in this room, a medal by the Harborne, Onion Bargee and Tandoori Appreciation Society, or HOTAS as it's known. A record of eating 3 curries in a day. This is true. For Lisa's sake, a feat we hope not to be repeated.